Greetings and welcome back to the Galley of the Sun. So a few weeks ago, we were up in Prescott, Arizona, and went out to breakfast one morning. I had the most amazing breakfast I think I've ever had. It was biscuits and Hatch green chili sausage gravy. Today, we're going to recreate that for you. So, inexplicably, I have the baking part of this. If you followed our channels, you know my baking adventures. Hopefully this time it turns out well. I did do a test run and I managed to make cheesy Hatch green chili cookies. Yeah, they weren't quite biscuits, but I think I've perfected my method, and we'll see what happens. When I'm done, then Charlotte's going to come in and make the Hatch green chili sausage gravy. Now, she's been making sausage gravy for us for years and years and years. It's absolutely phenomenal. But when we did our test run and added the Hatch green chilies, oh my God, I didn't think it could get better, but it did. So, let's get to making the biscuits so I can get out of the way of the true kitchen professional, Charlotte, and watch the magic happen. So, first of all, we're going to take a big bowl. And all the amounts are down in the bottom. I am doubling this recipe because it's so damn good. So here we go. All of our dry ingredients go in first. Here is 4 cups of all-purpose flour. Once again, we're on the normal baking adventure. 2 tablespoons baking powder, 2 tablespoons granulated sugar, and 2 teaspoons of salt. We're gonna get all that mixed up carefully as to not screw up our shirt again. Now we set that aside. You see I have a box grater out here. It's because I'm gonna put it to use. I've already used it to shred up my cheddar. We'll talk about that in a second. Now we're gonna do something else. So because I'm doubling this recipe, I have a stick and a half of butter. For the last 20 minutes or so, it's been in the freezer. Why? So I can grate it and then add it to our dry mixture. Be careful, as you can well imagine, butter's slippery. All right, now that grated butter goes into our dry mixture. And we're gonna gently cut that in until we have what resembles crumbs. Now after my earlier failure, I did a lot of biscuit research, and almost every recipe is the same, telling you not to overwork the dough. So we are not gonna overwork the dough here. All right, I'm calling that cut in. We're good to go. Now we're gonna add some wet ingredients. All right, so you can use buttermilk for this recipe, you can use whole milk, or you can use 2%, it's up to you. I would like to use buttermilk, I forgot to get it, so I'm using whole milk. So I have a cup and a half here. Remember, I'm doubling this recipe. It's normally 3/4 of a cup to make 6 good-sized biscuits. We're gonna add that in, and we're gonna add our half cup of Hatch green chilies. And we're going to add our half cup of shredded cheddar. I am using Trader Joe's unexpected cheddar. This stuff is incredible. So we're going to get that mixed together and not overwork the dough. As soon as it looks homogeneous to us, we're moving on to the next step. We brought in the expert. All right, the expert has determined this is mixed enough. So next thing we're gonna do is throw down some flour on our cutting board. And we have plenty at the standby here. I'm gonna turn our dough out onto it. Gonna make our big dough ball here. Okay, now we're gonna take it and fold it in upon itself. Push it down, rotate it 90 degrees. We're gonna do this about 6 times. Being careful not to overwork the dough. All right, there's our 6. Now, here's one of the places I went wrong before. I used the rolling pin and rolled it out about the size of pizza dough and then used my cutters thinking it was gonna rise a lot. Didn't so much, so I got cookies instead of biscuits. This time we're gonna use our hands. We're going to get this about 1 inch thick, which we're awful close to that now. We're going to lightly dust the top of it. Now we're going to get our trusty biscuit cutter out and start cutting some biscuits. Okay. And then we're going to put those on a parchment sheet lined baking sheet. Ain't making cookies this time. Then we're going to get our dough together as carefully as we can. Try not to overwork it. And then get a few more biscuits out of that. And repeat until we run out of dough. And the last one's going to be hand formed. All right, so the oven's preheated to 425 degrees. I'm going to chuck these in there for about 10 to 12 minutes until the top begins to brown. And then it is Charlotte magic gravy time. Stay tuned. All right, so it went about 13 minutes and we have some biscuits. Oh, you can certainly smell the hatch green chilies. Okay, they're monsters. You know how guys are about judging size. So I used a 3-inch cutter instead of a 2.5-inch cutter. So I got mega biscuits. Now I'm going to turn it over to Char so you can see some competency in cooking and some of the best sausage gravy that you have ever seen.
Good morning. As you can tell, it's morning. I'm still kind of got that whole sleepy look going on. Mike made these wonderful biscuits, really big biscuits. So I'm going to show you my gravy. Now, when I make this, I don't measure things because I've been making it for 40 years, something like that. Okay, so I did this, recreating that. So this is the hatch green chilies. Let me go show you if Mike hasn't already. It's just this jar of young gun hatch green chilies. Now, you can leave it like this and it'll be a little chunky in the gravy, or you can just puree it a little bit. So I just got a chopper and it's about 1/3 cup. So it's more like a hatch green chili puree. Now, we have a thing of the Jimmy Dean hot breakfast sausage. You can do this with regular. I'd stay away from the sweet if you're gonna go with the chilies, just because it just may not have the flavor you're looking for. Usually when I do my gravy, I have one hot and one of the regular, but we had this in the freezer, so this is what we're using. I have some minced onion, and I have some garlic powder. I have milk, and I have flour. When it comes to adding the milk, you're gonna have to look at it for the consistency that you're wanting. More milk makes a more liquidy consistency. Less milk makes a more thicker consistency. So you're gonna have to kind of watch how your milk goes there. The flour, I usually use, it ends up being between 2 tablespoons and 1/4 cup usually. Of course, if your gravy is a little liquidy, you're gonna add a little more flour. So let's just get started. We just open up the sausage, put it in the pan, we're gonna cook it down. Now, if you buy a lean sausage, you are going to have to add some extra fat to this. So you're gonna have to add some oils because that's how you make a gravy. Gravy is made by fats combining with the flour or the thickener that you're using to create the gravy consistency. Most gravies are made with flour, some are made with cornstarch. If you're gluten-free, instead of using flour, you can use like potato starch in this. And that actually makes a really good gravy. I've done that for people who are gluten-free. Now what I tend to do here is, at this point, I will also add the hatch green chili so that they cook down with the sausage. So I want to get all of that in there. So I'm going to just take the top off of that and get all of this in there. I also add the minced onion just because it gives it a chance to cook down. And you see that I'm not really measuring, but it's probably close to a tablespoon, tablespoon and a half. The onion just adds a really good flavor to everything. Now you're not looking at like browning this sausage like you do when you make sausage patties and stuff. You're basically just looking at getting it cooked through. So basically what I'm looking for here is just for the pink to go away, because it'll cook further as we make the gravy. Okay, and at this point I have some garlic powder because I don't like to overcook the garlic too much, and I'm putting probably about teaspoon and a half in here, partially because we really like garlic, but it also really makes it taste good, gives it a nice savory flavor too. So now we're ready to add the flour. So I start off with about 1/4 cup. Like I said, you may need more, you may need less. I just kind of sprinkle it all over. Now when I make my gravy and it doesn't add the hatch chilies to it, we'll finish it with a little bit of parsley. And if you're using just the regular sausage and you want to add a little bit of a snap, but not as much of a snap as a hot sausage, I also add maybe a little bit of red pepper flakes. But you see how that flour is binding with the sausage and everything right now? That's exactly what we're looking for. We're going to give that a minute or two stir on here. It doesn't need to go into a great big roux. It just needs a little bit. And then we add milk. Now, like I said, milk is going to depend upon how much you're going to use. Right here is probably about a cup and a half. And I just finished off this bottle. We're going to open up another one. You see us use Fairlife a lot, but that's just because we really, really like the Fairlife, and it's high in protein and lower in sugars and no lactose. So I'm giving this a stir, kind of breaking that up. And it does take a few minutes for it to start to thicken, but you can see it's starting to thicken already. I do want more actual gravy in this, so we're just going to add some more. So maybe another cup of milk once I pour this in. Now, the more people you have, of course, a lot more milk you're going to use. Just so you all know, we used to go to campouts, and I had people who are gluten-free and dairy-free, and I have made this with the unflavored, unsweetened almond milk before, and that's actually worked pretty good too. And they've been able to eat it because it doesn't have any of the gluten and potato starch, and they've been able to eat it because it's been dairy-free and gluten-free. So you can see it's thickening up already because you run it through and you've got that swipe in your pan that stays clean for a moment. That's thickening up. So I'm going to turn the temperature down a little bit on this, and I'm going to add probably about another cup of milk just to get it probably where I want it. So in the beginning you can have this at a higher heat, but then you need to turn it down because remember, we are cooking with milk. We don't want it scalding. A nice consistency. This is about the way we like it. So believe it or not, that's it. The gravy is ready to go with the biscuits. So I'm just going to turn this way down low so it can stay warm. And Mike, you ready?
Absolutely. All right, so obviously with biscuits and gravy, there are different strategies. You can take it and crumble it, or you can cut it in half and then cover it with your gravy. But you never want to skimp on the gravy. And if it falls apart on you a little bit, that's fine. It's
I need to try this by itself, though.
Now let's do that. Did I do better?
There you go. Oh my gosh, yes. No cookie there. Nice and fluffy. Now, I got a part that doesn't have the Hatch green chilies in it, which is fine for me. But these are nice. They're fluffy. They're not dry. Well done.
The unexpected cheddar really came out great in those.
I'm going to take another little bite. You see the bottom's got a nice little crisp to them.
Just a hint of cheese, but the cheese, because it's so sharp, oh, great.
Ugh.
Alrighty.
And there we go, biscuits and gravy.
Yeah, thank you so much to the restaurant, The Local in Prescott, Arizona, for inspiring us on this. Now, I don't know how they made their biscuits. They made some of the best biscuits I've ever had in my life, but I have no idea how to recreate those.
These are actually really pretty good. These are.
These are.
So yeah, this works well any season, but especially during Hatch green chili season.
So if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit that like button. Leave us a comment. How do you like to do your biscuits and gravy? Hit that subscribe button, never miss an episode. I hope you enjoyed today. We're going to certainly enjoy eating our biscuits and Hatch green chili sausage gravy. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, fair winds and following seas.